You are listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York.
Mysteries surround us, captivate us, and allure us. From flying saucers to men in black, upright canine cryptids, we explore the strange, the unusual, and the unknown. Join us as we take you on a journey beyond the edge and into the realm of the arcane. Sean Forker, Lon Strickler, Butch Witkowski take you into the world of the unknown. Arcane Radio. And good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Arcane Radio. It's been a few weeks. I'm Sean, the Fork Chop Forker, your moderator, here on our new home at WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York. Man, it's great to be back. And, of course, I'm joined tonight, as always, with Phantoms and Monsters, one and only Lon Strickler, and the man who holds a BA in BS, Mr. Butch Witkowski from PA U4 Cop. Guys, welcome back.
Yeah, good to be back.
Been a while. I mean, a lot going on the past month.
It's been a tremendous time off. Lots going on. I'll let you guys talk about it and kind of introduce yourself to the listeners here. And a special shout out to Cindy and Dita and everyone else here at WCJV. It's great to be at our new home.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is something we needed to do a while back, and, we finally went through with it, and it's good to be here.
I love it.
Butch is at a loss for words. I don't know what to do. So, Lon and Butch, guys, tell the listeners a little bit about yourselves. They're so used to hearing me talk, they need to get back to you.
Well, I'm Lon Strickler, and I'm the publisher and blogger over Phantoms and Monsters and Phantoms and Monsters 14 Research. And, we've been together here on Arcane Radio now, about 3 years, Sean? I guess that's what it's been.
It's been a long time, and, of course, we were with each other at Beyond the Edge Radio, right, our former home, and it's just nice to continue the show and keep it going on a new platform at a new time, but in the same space. And, of course, before we get to Butch, just let's put our thoughts and energies out there for all our folks, fans, listeners, and fellow human beings experiencing some traumatic things with Hurricane Harvey down in Texas and on the Gulf Coast, and with the impending Hurricane Irma. Some turbulent times going on, guys, but we're thinking of you. And, folks, if you go to arcaneradio.com and click on For the Cause, there's some great places you can go and donate to make sure those good folks don't go without.
Oh, absolutely. So, Butch, tell everybody who you are.
Well, I'm Butch Witkowski. I'm the director and the founder of the UFO Research Center of Pennsylvania. I'm the editor of JAR Magazine, which is a journal of abnormal abduction research. I'm a member of the Institute of Frontier Science. I'm a member of the Académie d'Ufologie in France, Paranexus Consultant Advisor in Ufology, and associate member and researcher for PNM 40 in Research.
Well, now we're on our second half hour.
I feel like if you were to look at Butch's email phrase, it looks like the alphabet after his name.
Yeah.
PhD,
you're right.
LMNOP, as it goes. But, of course, guys, I'm Sean Forker. I'm with the Keystone Bigfoot Project, of course, Phantoms and Monsters, 40 in Research. I do all kinds of things. I just like weird stuff. And you can find out more about me on theforkchop.net because I don't like talking about myself that much. I enjoy this program because we get to go out there and explore strange and unusual topics and talk about things other folks just don't dare to touch. And one of those topics, guys, that we've been talking about a lot lately that the mainstream media has been kind of laughing at and people have just been really messing up is this crazy strange, unusual situation going on in Chicago, the Chicago Phantom.
Yeah, it's been a good run. I mean, it's been going on now. Well, we've been reporting on it since early April.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, for 2017, we're at 40 sightings. Now, of course, we're going to have a lot of naysayers, and like you said, the mainstream media hasn't really picked up on it. But I believe that's going to be changing very soon. I've got an interview coming out on Playboy magazine, probably the next issue, but I'm not quite sure on that. And there's going to be a few other things coming out as well. So, and of course, I'm working on a book about what's been going on. So, see if we can get it out there. More people will understand what's going on. And like I've been telling people, it is out there. It's on the streets. I'm getting anywhere from 10 to 20 phone calls a day from people just wondering what this is that's going on, and if there's going to be any ramifications in Chicago because of it. And I've been trying to tap down everybody's anxiety over this, but there is concern and fear. There's no doubt about that.
I don't know what's more concerning, the fact that for the first time in my life I'm opening a Playboy to actually read the articles, or that there's this flying unknown creature flying in the not, I don't want to say menacing, because it's really not menacing anybody, just kind of existing in the atmospheric space around Chicago. And there's no real kind of definitive explanation for it. People have tried to debunk it. I heard some idiot say stunt kite. Boy, was that dumb.
Oh, yeah. We Manuel Navarrete, who's one of the researchers with our group, and who has actually received several of the witness calls and emails. He was on a radio show the other night, and the Illinois state director for MUFON was on there with him. And of course, anybody that's familiar with MUFON, they're going to try to shoot this thing down. So they were coming up with a few odd and kind of contrived explanations for what was going on, and it was pretty ridiculous. But that's in their nature, so we expected that.
I have to say I'm disappointed by the turn of events. I thought they would be more objective and really looking for an answer to this mystery, but it seems all they've been doing, and this is just my experience following what you and Butch and everyone else is cataloging, that they're just kind of throwing up roadblocks and trying to put out misinformation, which isn't right.
No. And, that's par for the course for them. And Butch can tell you, we've been working on this Todd C's case, and we're getting pushback on that. We've been getting pushback on that, and that's not the first time. I mean, there have been other cases I've been involved with. Well, David Eckhart's case down in Florida, perfect example. They didn't want to touch it, and they did all they could to, try to put a roadblock in it. And, but you just got to persevere with them.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. Butch, what's your take?
Well, they are what they are. Everything is to be debunked, no matter how good the information is. What kind of torqued me a little bit when I listened to the show was the fact that going after witnesses and their testimony, that's just not right, period. And unless he was there, unless he saw it firsthand, he has nothing to say. I mean, you're getting a report from somebody who saw something. They know what they saw. They're describing what they saw. And then to stand there and have an investigator say, well, that's not what you saw. This is what you saw. The blue heron thing was a joke. That almost knocked me off my chair. And the kite. And I mean, it was just pulling stuff out of the air to make up excuses to try to make himself or the organization look like they were on top of it. To the best of my knowledge, MUFON does not investigate anything like this. Not when I was a member, or not before I was a member, and not after I was not a member. They do not investigate things like this. So to inject themselves into something like this, crypto, is just beyond with me. I don't get it. And to come up with all these reasons or what he thinks it is, well, thinking's one thing, but, demand evidence and think critically. And that's something that outfit will never do.
One of the things I have to say that astonishes me is the folks that want the access to the witnesses. Mm-hmm. Everybody and their brother want to talk to the witnesses, and who aren't their witnesses. Of course, they came forth to you guys, and you, of course, should have full access, and the team of our investigators, because we've built trust with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's so disturbing that people are getting upset because they don't have access to these witnesses when no trust has been established between the people requesting the interview and the actual witnesses. Like, what would make them think that's okay?
That's something that has astonished me, especially with this case. I've never really experienced that before, but then again, it just seems everybody wants to be the investigator here, and I guess they believe we're not doing what we should be doing, and they feel that they have a right to talk to the witnesses. Well, that's not going to happen. And I have assured the witnesses I have talked to, and Manuel as well, that, unless they get permission, we get their permission to talk, give some information that they can contact them. And but other than that, that's not going to happen. I mean, now, Billy Bance is a perfect example. He's one of the witnesses. He was one of the witnesses at Cicero. He's been very forthcoming. He came on the radio show with us as well.
Mm-hmm.
Seth Breedlove asked me, look, can you help me get in contact with Billy? I said, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll see what Billy says, and you guys can hook up, figure out how you're going to hook up together, and then go from there. And but I trust Seth. I know Seth, so I had no problem with that, and I had no problem telling Billy that this guy's cool. He though Billy didn't know who he was, which which was better yet. But the fact that these people are coming out of the woodwork and just saying, you should be able to let us talk to the witness. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that doesn't make much sense. Look, I just don't get it. And the anger associated with them being denied is just mind-boggling. I just don't get it. And every time, it just seems like this case just grows and grows and grows. Like, there's no end to the growth of this case. Like, we look at things like the lichen loop, and I think, at least from what I know, with the case of the PA Dogman, the lichen loop, like, cases come in, but not as much as we've been getting the concentrated amount for this Chicago Phantom case. This is just explosive. I really think we're in the middle of a flap here.
Oh, this is historical. Quite frankly, I don't know of any other type of, let alone cryptid, but flying humanoid sightings that have been concentrated in an area like this, but at this degree since Point Pleasant. And, it is. I believe it's an absolute historical situation. These incidents are historical, and the witnesses have been very forthcoming. And they're, when you talk to them, you do get the impression that they did see something, and that they're not embellishing or lying to you, and that's great. It doesn't happen that often, but when you do have something like this, it's not a mass hysteria like some people are trying to say it is. It's just not that. It's not like we're getting calls every day. We're not. there have been calls and emails that we have received that we totally rejected. We're not accepting everything. But, of course, these people that we are notating and their incidents are being notated are people we believe actually did have an encounter or a sighting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just growing beyond leaps and bounds. I'm kind of at a loss for more descriptors on how well this is just amazing me. Like, it's incredible. The growth is just outstanding. And you're getting all these calls a day. What's going on with these calls? Are they more sightings, or are they just curiosity seekers?
I'd say the majority of people are scared.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think, it is that. I mean, I have all walks of life within the Chicago metro area giving me a call and asking me, what is your take on this? Is this something that, is this a harbinger? People have heard about the Mothman and the Silver Bridge, and that scares them. And I tell them, look, I don't believe that. I don't think that's what this is. But, I'm not going to come right out and say, no, this isn't going to happen. There has to be, in my opinion, a reason why these things are showing up. Now, why that's going on, I don't know. I do believe that we're dealing with more than three or more of these beings at this point because of the descriptions and the locations they're showing up. We've been looking at all different types of locations, facets of this case where we're trying to figure out where they may be coming from. We've got a few clues of possible areas. Butch has been looking into the underground areas as of this week. That's something I'm going to start investigating. Who knows? It's funny. I put out a note today on the blog asking people, our readers, what do you think this is? You've been reading what I've been posting. Now tell us what you think it is and the reason why it's showing up in the Chicago area. And I just posted that at, I don't know, about 3 o'clock this afternoon. I've already gotten 22 responses. So, people are interested.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a few.
Yeah.
I mean, Lon, I guess it's easy for folks to kind of feel this is a doom and gloom thing where when you look at all the destruction going on with natural disasters and the threat of impending nuclear war from North Korea. I mean, I can see how folks are going negative on this. But I guess the glimmer of hope in all this, and Dr. Parsons pointed it out in the chat room, and we've talked about it in the past, this thing's never hurt anybody.
So far.
And, I mean, as with all wild beings and creatures, and great and small, I wouldn't go up and try to give it a Snickers bar, but, I mean, it appears to be relatively harmless besides scaring the crap out of people. And that's just fear in itself. That's just a natural response to something we don't know. So at this point, personally, I don't feel anybody should be alarmed. If you're going to go solicit opinions, I'll give you mine. Do I think it's a harbinger? No. I think it's something rare. And I think maybe it's something that is unexplained. And, I was listening to some John Keel interviews on YouTube, and, maybe it's one of those things, man, that's just from another plane.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I believe it is. I mean, what do you think, Butch?
Oh, I think so, too. It's, when you go back and look at not just the recent reports that you're getting, but when you go back and look at historical reports from all over the place of flying beings, I mean, they seem to come out of nowhere, and some stick around for a while, and some just are there, and then they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And, you have the same thing with the bipedals. Look how they just came about, in 2014, and how we documented those over time. And that investigation, is still ongoing. And again, that hasn't hurt anybody either. But in the last case where it was following the two gentlemen, and then, got back to their truck before they did. That was a little threatening. And the other one was the one in Tuscarora where it actually got below the tree stand and started growling at the guy.
Yeah.
So we don't know. And that's all you can say when people say that. We just don't know. Will they hurt somebody? Could they hurt? Well, I'm sure they could hurt somebody, but will they hurt somebody? We don't know that. Same thing with this thing flying around there. We don't know. It could not and could go away and never heard of again, or it could continue on. But like the bipedals, I think whatever it is, it's been around a long time.
I think I just got this suspicion that we're going to be, and I'm talking about all of the paranormal and cryptozoology, and, I got a feeling we're going to be in for more groups of sightings of certain unknown beings. I really do. I think this is something, it's starting to ramp up for some reason, and, it just feels weird to me. I've been doing this a long time, and, the mood, the way the energy, the vibration goes, I just got this feeling that just isn't going to be an isolated incident. I think this may actually start happening other places as well.
A thing that I found interesting going through those cases and going through the bipedal cases and going way back, all the way back as I can. The one thing that is in common with both the bipedal and these flying things over Chicago is water.
Yeah.
They're always close to water. Whether it's a pond, a creek, a lake, a river, they're close. And I mean close within a few miles. That's the only thing.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's between the two of them. So, and then when I was doing some of that research for you on the tunnels and stuff, how many of those tunnels are they're conjoined with something to do with water, either drainage or flood water or, just runoff.
Some of the investigators on the task force have told us, Chicago is just loaded with these undergrounds. It's part of the city. It's something that everybody knows about. I don't know if they know the extent of it all.
And they go back a long time.
They do go back a long time. Chicago was actually raised. The city itself was raised. I'm talking about lifted up. Not torn down, but lifted up back in the 1800s. And there has to be something underneath there that's still there. So I don't know. But I just got this. That's why I asked you about that. To dig in there, because I was thinking of deep underground military bases possibility in the area. But, that's just one thing that's not really near there at all.
We do.
Kokomo was about the nearest one, right?
Right, yes.
Yeah.
We do have a good question from the chat, guys, real quick. Javerville wants to know, has anyone contacted any native elders or native medicine men to get their opinion of what the Chicago Phantom may be? That's right from our chat.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have. I have been putting it out there. I haven't really gotten much of a response on it. But,
so you've sent out feelers but haven't gotten anything back yet.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I have. And, of course, with that upright canine, Butch did that as well. And that was just something. But as far as the Phantom, I did ask if there was any possibility that it was a native people type of thing, that it was part of their culture or anything. Well, there has been this Thunderbird sightings in and around Chicago, down in Illinois, Indiana, up in Wisconsin for many, many years. And, of course, the Thunderbird legend, I think almost every tribe has had that type of legend or something to that effect. So, as far as what this is, I don't know, because I'm not really getting any feedback on that.
which is kind of unusual because when I contacted the tribes, the indigenous tribes, regarding the bipedal after the first 3 reports, man, I mean, they got back to me instantly.
Yeah.
They gave me tons of information. They sent me tons of information. And now their take on it was that it could possibly be a skinwalker due to the fact that Pennsylvania has a lot of was inhabited all of Pennsylvania by the indigenous, and of course those stories go with the tribes.
Yeah.
And they were very forthcoming with information and sending me amulets to protect me and stuff like that. But and we still keep in touch. And when I get a report, I throw it by them, and they're sticking by their guns. They're saying I'm dealing with something that has been around for a long time, and they could be protectors, which is down to the farm. And what we got down there, those entities are still there. They're not in the same place. They've moved around, but they're still there. So
well,
that whole story that's a show by itself.
Well, before we bring Tim on, who's on the line, our guest, I need Butch to do something for me. We have a contest going on, and I'm giving away my last 2 books signed, and also my next book, which is probably going to come out by the end of the year. That's part of it as well, and they will get a copy of that. But we've got 2 of these sets set aside for 2 winners. So I got 129 responses. So,
oh wow!
I want you to pick, Butch, 2 numbers between 1 and 129.
Okay. Let's go with 70 and 47.
Okay. Well, 47 is Anthony Laredo, and I know he lives down in the Atlanta area. And the other one is Michelle Wainwright, and she's from British Columbia. So that's our 2 winners.
Well, fantastic. Congratulations to those guys, and thanks for being an avid supporter of Phantoms and Monsters. This is where we should add some applause or something. I'll clap just for them. That was exciting. And you know what, Butch?
What's that?
It was weird. We must have been psychically linked because you picked the same numbers I was going to pick.
You're kidding.
Yeah, I am kidding. No, that was complete bullcrap. But I just thought it would be funny to throw that in there.
Now you're going to go all psychic on us, right?
Yeah, no, I'm as psychic as a stone. All right, folks. This week we welcome author and paranormal researcher Timothy Renner to Arcane Radio. Timothy is an accomplished musician as well as a member of Seekers, a cryptid and paranormal investigation group located in south central Pennsylvania. His first book, Beyond the Seventh Gate, Exploring Toad Road, The Seven Gates of Hell, and Other Strangeness in York, Lancaster, and Adams counties, was published in 2016. His most recent book, Bigfoot in Pennsylvania, documents historical sightings and encounters in the Keystone State. Timothy is also a team member investigator of our Chicago Phantom Task Force, which sounds like an upcoming comic, but it's not. So we are proud and glad to have Timothy Renner as our inaugural guest here on Arcane Radio on WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York. Timothy, thanks for joining us tonight.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Whew, I did that almost in one breath.
You're going to pass out on us?
Just a little bit. Man, this is great. Well, Tim, you also do a podcast called Strange Familiars, correct?
Indeed, yes.
So, folks, check that out as well. I picked up Beyond the seventh gate today, believe it or not. I ordered it a week ago, and it just got here. And, man, what a read. And one of the things I appreciate the most is you take the BS out of these folk stories. Like, yes, they're great and they're fun and all to have around, but I really appreciate the honesty in what you're writing, Tim. It's fantastic stuff.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I get irritated because there's a good story there. There's a really good story there, and then when people overlay this kind of nonsense over top, it seems to me that it really muddies the water. So I like as best as I can to get to the heart of the matter.
Well, you sure did with Exploring Toad Road. I mean, that just, after, I read the book and Toad Road, after I read it, I just wanted to go out in the truck and head down there. It's a fascinating story, and it's just very well written, well documented. Pictures are great. I mean, it takes you right there.
Oh, thank you.
Anybody that has not read Beyond the Seventh Gate by Tim Renner needs to go out and buy this book. That's a fact.
Thank you so much. That's high praise. Thank you, guys.
Well, Timothy, you're part of this Chicago Phantom Task Force, and you've been reading what's been going on. You've been in the loop now for at least over a month. What's your take on this thing?
Well, I heard you say before I came on here that you were expecting it to pop up in other places, and that's exactly what I was thinking, Lon.
Really?
I thought, and I bet it's going to be big cities. I don't know why. I just feel like this is an expression of a phenomenon that's going to visit cities. The rural places, they have the upright canines and the Bigfoot creatures and so forth. But for some reason, I feel like this is coming to cities.
Well, why do you think that?
It's just based on how populated Chicago is and the areas where these sightings are. It doesn't seem to be an incredibly shy creature, phenomenon, whatever it is. It's popping up in these highly populated areas.
Yeah, that is one thing that has really, had me thinking a lot. I mean, with the way this thing just shows itself, and it doesn't care where it shows itself at. And in fact, it was interesting that we had this sighting in Burnham Harbor during the solar eclipse in Chicago. Thousands of people were out there, and this thing's out there flying around the boats, above the boats and everything. But you know what? I've only ever got one sighting report on that. I just find that amazing. But, the way the witnesses were talking, everybody could have seen this. And this isn't unusual. I mean, this thing shows up. Do you believe there's a possibility that it just allows certain people to see it somehow?
Perhaps. I mean, that's been a feature of UFO sightings in the past. You hear these stories of people standing on the street pointing up saying, do you see that? Look at that. And other people just not even recognizing it,
Well, I'm speechless as anybody else about this. Even though I've been investigating it, it just seems every time I get another sighting, there's just something else there that, it's hard to explain. It just seems that there should be an explanation for it. Why people can't get photographs is one of the biggest conundrums, I believe. I mean, they say that they have tried. They're unable to do it. For whatever reason, it's almost like they're paralyzed. Is it something that this being is doing to them? Just like what people talk about with Bigfoot. That people just seem to not be able to look at this thing and just try to act normal. So I don't know.
Right.
I am amazed as anybody else, and I'm the one writing about it and getting the information from people.
Writing about it and broadcasting about it on WCJV, Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York. Also heard on iHeartRadio.
So what do you think? I mean, what do you think, Sean? Do you think does the behavior of this being, what specific behavior of this being interests you the most?
About this myself, well, I think it doesn't stay around long enough for people to really interact with it. Once it's spotted, it tends to take off. There's a lot of almost, I don't want to say a sense of fear about it, but it tends to not want to interact with people. That in itself is telling to me that it's either doesn't think it's able to be seen, or that once it's observed, it just doesn't want to interact with people. That's what makes me think perhaps it's got one of those, Keel-esque type elements to it, that maybe it's something that's kind of between the dimensional, and this is an area way outside my expertise, so bear with me, outside that plane. Maybe it doesn't feel that it can be seen by people, or it is being observed until it's too late.
Well, now, Timothy, you live near me, and of course we've had these flying humanoid sightings in this area as well. I reported on, of course, the Conewaga Phantom sightings, and then the one in Littlestown about a year and a half ago. But, we also had a sighting or an encounter in that area near Cador's Furnace as well.
Yes.
We talked about that the last time we had you on the show. So what do you make of these things in our area?
Well, once again, and again, you guys were saying this before I came on, they're following the water. The Conewago Phantom seems like it follows the Conewago Creek, and that creek empties into the Susquehanna not too far north of Cador's Furnace. Right. So it's kind of right there, and the only thing I can say about water is it seems like it's kind of the ultimate kind of liminal space. It's always changing. And I wonder if that has something to do with it, with all of these creatures. The Bigfoot creatures, they were very often seen, beside creeks or very close to them.
Well, when you talk about cryptids in general, and you talk about the paranormal, now, I have done a lot of spiritual infestations and hauntings and such. But, it's well known that certain areas where there is running water, springs in particular, near houses, there are springs that run underneath houses, tend to have a lot of entity activity. If that's the case, could that has maybe explain why these cryptids may be attracted to sites where water is?
I think it's too much of a coincidence to ignore. I think we have to keep it in the mix.
Okay. Well, now you did write this book not long ago about the Bigfoot in Pennsylvania, and we talked a little bit about that the last time you were on the show. But the historical Bigfoot, it's I guess everybody for years has just kind of directed their attention to Bigfoot, or let's put it to the general public has directed its interest in Bigfoot in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah. But of course, Bigfoot historically has been seen all over the country.
Well, it is America's favorite cryptid.
And that's right. And when the Boggy Creek incident, the movie and all came out, people started to get more interest in it. They knew that this thing had been seen in the South. But, of course, we all knew that Pennsylvania has been very active as well. And it is amazing how many sightings you were able to dig up. Not being specific, but give us a raw number. How many sightings have there been in Pennsylvania? Do you have any idea altogether?
I have no clue because things get weird with copyrights after 1922, so I kind of just stopped there because that's when public domain ends. Right. I have a number of newspaper articles that I've clipped that have come between. It's been hundreds. I mean, there's so many. And you got to figure for every one we know about, there's probably 10 we don't, right?
Right.
It's just there's an immense amount of sightings in Pennsylvania, and having moved on, I'm now working on some other regions. I don't know whether they were just documented better here. Maybe we had more newspapers, or the newspapers were more active in documenting this kind of stuff. But I'm just not finding as many in newspapers from, say, out west, where you think I'd find a ton of them. I'm digging into Washington State and Oregon. I'm probably going to have to do one book that's California, Oregon, and Washington State, for instance.
Oh, I'm quite sure you will. I'm quite sure you will.
I would have thought I would have gotten a book out of each one of them, though, but it's going to have to be one combined. There's just not as many of these historical accounts out there as there was in Pennsylvania.
That's weird, isn't it? That does seem weird, because, the Bigfoot legend basically, when it got into the media and everything, it was basically out into the Pacific Northwest. But the real truth is that there's just been as many, if not more, sightings in Pennsylvania and all up and down the East Coast. And in fact, the skunk ape type sightings, the southern Sasquatch sightings running all along the Gulf Coast into Texas. I mean, there are sightings everywhere.
Yeah, and really you got to learn what the locals called them before they called them Bigfoot, because Bigfoot really didn't come into use until really common usage until the late 60s, early 70s. I know the term was coined in the 50s, I know, but people didn't really start using it. Didn't enter pop culture as a term people use on the regular until 70s, maybe late 60s. So you just have to learn what people called them previous to that, and you can find the articles, which is interesting, because you get a lot of regional names, like your skunk apes, or your the wood boogers, of course, down south. Mm-hmm. They called them mountain devils. I'm trying to think of some of the others. Wild men's the biggest. That seems to be kind of the most universally used one. But in Pennsylvania, it changed to gorillas right around 1900. They started calling them gorillas, and then it seems like somewhere in the 30s and 40s, right about the time of when drive-in monster movies became popular, it switches to monster. So, and then it's monster until it becomes Bigfoot or Sasquatch.
Tim, one of the things I always found fascinating, and Lon and Butch, we've talked about it for some time, and you kind of just alluded to it, like previous to the William Rowe case, Bigfoot sightings kind of all follow that giant ape-like creature sighting, right? It doesn't seem to me that until like the Patterson film, do these things start taking on more of a human type characteristics. Do you think there's something to that the reports change as our perception of them changes?
It could be. Somebody else. I'm trying to think who. It's my partner on the podcast, James. He's my newest partner on the podcast. He put forth a similar theory that perhaps the phenomenon changes, as culture changes. But I don't know. I think there's just a number of these things out there that are answering to different descriptions. Some more man-like, some more ape-like. Sometimes you get descriptions of people say it looked like a human that was just hairy. And other times you get descriptions of people say, it was a big gorilla, it was, King Kong. Mm-hmm. So, and everything in between. It's Neanderthal types and mm-hmm. Some people have identified, something like 8 different types. I don't know if I'd go that far, but they certainly do manifest in a variety of forms, whether natural or otherwise.
One of the things folks are going to see in the upcoming invasion on Chestnut Ridge is an account of Sam Sherry, a Pennsylvania investigator. They're going to see an encounter, a reenactment of an encounter that he had out in the Chestnut Ridge. And one of the things that stands out to me, and it's always kind of stood out in my mind, and it's finally nice to see it fleshed out, is Sam's recollection of what he seen that day was a Neanderthal type. This thing kind of gets so close the spittle hits his face. It has a mohawk.
Yeah. I'm familiar with that case. It's very intense, very interesting, and correct me if I'm wrong, it influenced him. Like, I think he spent the rest of his life searching for these creatures.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Stan Gordon, of course, knows that story. Eric Altman, a lot of the legendary Pennsylvania researchers, all familiar with Sam Sherry's work out there in the Chestnut Ridge. And, you catalog an awful lot of the newspaper accounts in Bigfoot in Pennsylvania. Do you think you're going to tackle a book later on of more modern day accounts of Pennsylvania sightings?
I would love to continue from 1922 onward. Like I said, I can't reprint the newspaper articles exactly as they were written. I'll have to rewrite them, and that is contingent on groups sharing encounters with me, though, because there's a lot of groups that don't want to share.
God, we know about that.
Well, not to toot my own horn, but I'm kind of tight with the people that run the most important one. So I can get you, what you need, Timothy. You just let me know what you need. I'll make
okay. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to go on. I'm a completist, and it kills me that I had to stop where I had to stop. So I'd love to do a second volume.
I can tell you from experience, there are so many reports that have come in the last couple of years that are still being investigated that a lot of people don't even know about. In fact, I just had one come in today. There's so many reports of Bigfoot creatures in just Pennsylvania alone. It's crazy, let alone what's out there in the United States. And for me, the most frustrating and annoying question I get is from people when they think they're being funny, is there more than one Bigfoot? And I can definitively say with all these reports coming in, either that guy gets around or math's pretty hard for some folks. It's crazy. It's crazy. So aside from our hairy friend, our hairy hominid here in PA, what else do you got going on? What other mysteries are you tackling?
Well, there's an area that we've been digging in for. We're going to do a special on the podcast, which it's an ongoing investigation, so I can't, obviously give away where it is. We're calling it Site 7 just to give a name for it. It's another closed area, similar to Toad Road, that someone told me a story about, and this fellow went there as a teenager, and he talked about this family of albinos that lived in a shack along this road, and all these mysterious things that would happen on this road. He said that if you went out there at night and parked your car, hobos would throw stones at you from the woods. And I asked him, I said, well, did anybody ever see these hobos? Oh, no, but it was well known. If you go out there, hobos will throw stones at you. So this kind of piqued my curiosity, and I started digging into it. And we got a Bigfoot sighting within a mile or two of the place. And then a friend of mine went down there one night last summer and photographed eye shine from the trees. But I don't know. These may or may not be creatures. This may be some kind of spiritual activity. I don't know, because I've been in there twice and I've seen flashes, and I don't mean like a flashbulb flash. I mean like a movement flash, a movement of white things, which calls to mind this tale of these albinos that were supposed to have lived there. It's a very interesting, very weird place, and we've put out recorders overnight, and there's so much audio. There's just so much weird audio that we're going through, that it just seems to be a highly active place. Active with what? I can't say yet, but it's very strange.
Yeah, that seems to be something that's been coming up the last couple of years with Bigfoot sightings and other phenomena, but these orbs showing up. Now, Stan's been talking about with UFO and Bigfoot possibility being, people reporting them being coinciding together or being near each other. But I'm talking about when people go out, an investigator goes out and checks out a Bigfoot sighting or another type of anomaly sighting. They go to the area and they start seeing these orbs. Now, I don't know why that is being reported all of a sudden now. I haven't really remembered orb sightings at possible cryptid locations until the last couple of years. Now, I don't know why that's going on, Is it an interdimensional thing? Possibility? I don't know. Of course, with this thing in Chicago, I had reported earlier that there were flashes of light being seen south of the city that people couldn't understand what it was. But have you heard much of that with cryptid sightings, Timothy?
Two things came up. We talked a little bit about it on the last episode, and we were talking with another cryptid witness from North Carolina who saw a white devil monkey, like baboon kind of creature. And we were talking with him, and I brought up these white flashes, and I was contacted by, I'm going to say 4 or 5 people immediately after the podcast that, I've seen those white flashes. I've seen those white flashes, from all over the country, including other people here in York County.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they are. I don't know what to make of those. But the other thing that it used to be very rare to hear someone say they saw a white Bigfoot. I mean, extremely rare. There was a couple cases out from Western Pennsylvania in the past. There's a very famous that clip, film clip of it, where the guy films the face of the creature.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. But other than that, there wasn't really. It was very, very rare to hear about white creatures. And I'm getting these reports of these white creatures. This baboon devil monkey thing, whatever they saw was white, and I'm wondering if there's something to it with the white flashes and the white creatures. I know there's some Navajo prophecies that involve white creatures and the end of the world, particularly the white buffalo.
Right.
But beyond that, I just wonder: is there some reason people are seeing white creatures now? Whereas before it was very, very rare.
That's a really, really good question, and I wish I had an answer for you, because you're right. It used to be extremely rare to see a sighting or read a sighting or have an encounter of white-colored Bigfoot. Don Keating had a video back in like the early 90s, and that was like the only time you ever actually seen one besides the Lake Worth monster in Texas. And every now and then you would have a sighting pop up of a light-colored Bigfoot. But now, since that video, I think it's been a little bit more common. But that video in itself, guys, if you haven't seen it, is truly amazing, folks. You can go to YouTube and Google white Bigfoot in PA. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, where was that in PA exactly? What county was that? You remember?
I think that was out the Wilkes-Barre Scranton way.
Oh, it was on the other side of the state.
Yeah, it was on the eastern side of the state.
See, I thought it was out west near you, but I could be wrong. Because that's where
I thought that sighting was out by near Allegheny, out in that area out there. I wasn't,
No, it was picked up by the eastern side of the state news. It wasn't picked up by Pittsburgh, so.
Oh, okay.
It was picked up by WNEP 16 out of Wilkes-Barre Scranton.
Okay.
But we'll bring more on that. Question from the chat room, though, real quick, since we're on the topic of white creatures. Are the sightings of the white creatures central to any areas in particular? And I guess we could all take a chance to answer that. For me, it's not really.
No, yeah, I agree. They're coming from all over the place now.
Yeah. Butch, Lon, any opine on that?
I don't know. What we say, Butch? Have you heard of anything like that in your ventures?
No, not at all.
Really?
We take this one step further, and I'm wondering why we haven't seen any kind of reports of this coloration, any of the dogman type creatures.
Well, we did have one with an aura around it.
An aura?
Yeah, that one in Hollidaysburg? Yeah.
Blair County.
Yeah.
Where the guy sees this creature, what he thought was chewing on a roadkill, and when it stood up and they drove past it, he said it had like a silverish aura around it.
I'm throwing white Bigfoot sighting in PA into my Google machine here and seeing what we come up with. Just because.
Well, overall, I tell you that, and I don't know if it's just because of the internet or what, but these albino and I'm talking about all species, all different species have been showing up a lot. You know, we do know that, you know, white-tailed deer, these albino white-tailed deer are seen a lot, but it does seem that the more sightings in nature of albino species, species that have albinism with them, you know. Just today, I posted the ghost lobster, the albino lobster that was caught up in Maine this past week.
Oh yeah,
that's freaky. You know, I can just imagine what he thought when he pulled that thing up. But
I just want to eat it.
Well, I don't think I'd eat it. I don't know. You know, it just seems to me I wonder if it turns red when you cook it.
Let's find out.
That sighting was in Lackawanna Township, wasn't it? Lackawanna.
It was in Carbondale.
Yeah.
Well, that's eastern PA then, up northeastern PA.
You're darn right it is.
Dia said, I always thought it was environmental contamination or something. Not necessarily. It seems, you know, it seems that these albinism just occurs, and it's not really in specific sites, I don't believe. Though I do remember a sighting of a white elk in PA many years ago, and I don't even know what county it was. It might have been Sullivan County.
Yeah, I remember that too, Lon.
It was supposed to have been something to do with contamination or something. So I really don't know.
It was scared at birth, and that's what happened.
It just scared itself.
Never regained its color back.
It saw a dog man and just.
Well, that would probably scare him white. I believe that probably would.
Oh,
it did it for me. I've never.
Yeah.
Early complexion.
Yeah, we start getting albino phantoms flying around, then I'm going to be concerned. But, you know.
We'll just retire.
Now, you know, of course, I had brought up earlier about Stan Gordon mentioning for years now with the the UFO sightings and the possibility that Bigfoot was associated with them. Have you heard of it? In any of your investigations, Timothy, have you run across anything like that?
Oh yeah.
Really?
I just wrote an article for it should be in the third volume of Wood Knocks, that series that David Weatherly publishes.
Oh, okay.
And it's on 8 square miles in Delta in York County.
Right.
And it's insane amount of sightings of not just Bigfoot. There's ghost sightings. There's tales of the orbs, leprechauns. There were people doing. There was spiritualists who were doing automatic writing, and the medium said that pirates had sailed up the Susquehanna and buried treasure there. The treasure was never found, but there's just all this weirdness, and it's all packed into 8 square miles. Starting in 1880 or something, I have a Bigfoot sighting, and then going up to I think the last one I had was 2014. Haunted houses, tales of headless ghosts, people found dead in the slate mines, with no known cause of death or no apparent cause of death. Just this ton of weird stuff, all packed into the 8 square miles. But along with that, in 1978, there were quite a few Bigfoot sightings, and then UFOs as well. They were seen right over Peach Bottom atomic power plant.
That's right. Yeah, and I remember all that because there were a lot of sightings as well down in the Harford County, the whole way along the Susquehanna down in Maryland. And you're right.
Gatchellville, which is right not too far from Delta, they had a landing there. Witnessed by I think 11 different people or something like that. So where I joke that, and I say, find me a Bigfoot sighting in Pennsylvania, and I'll find you a UFO sighting to go with it. But it's really only half joking. It's you can often find them around the same time.
Do you guys know what the problem of being a headless ghost is?
What's that?
You won't be able to listen to us live on WCJV, digital broadcasting, Youngstown, New York, or on iHeartRadio. It's terrible, isn't it?
You're getting really...
Yeah, you're going to get good at this. I can see it.
I'm loving it.
I can see you're gonna be very good at this eventually.
This is great.
Yeah, you're right though. That area down there around Delta and the corner of York County, there have been a lot of weird things going down there, and I had a lot of witnesses in Maryland when I was living in Maryland tell me about some strange things in that area. In fact, I had a police officer tell me a lot of weird stuff down there as well. So I don't know. I'll admit I've never seen a UFO, let alone a UFO with a Bigfoot. I've heard a lot. I've heard a lot of different stories from a lot of different people. But
well, I think it's important that when I talk about this to say that I don't believe that Bigfoot's riding around in a UFO. I don't believe aliens are dropping Bigfoot creatures here. The only thing I can say is that whatever conditions seem good for a Bigfoot, seem ripe for witnessing a Bigfoot, these conditions seem to be similarly ripe for witnessing a UFO and other phenomena too.
Aaron David in the chat room has asking, I'd like to know how you guys feel about actively trying to engage with this phenomena. Is it dangerous? Is this how people go missing? Well, I don't know which phenomena you mean. I mean, I don't know if it's just this phantom or Bigfoot or phenomena in general. I guess it's a good possibility. I really don't know of any or recall any researchers or investigators going missing after looking into this stuff.
I haven't yet. I haven't, and we've been doing this for a long time. And
yeah, I don't know of any. How about you, Timothy?
Some people I want to disappear haven't yet. So
we keep hoping.
Can we make a list?
Really?
No investigators. The people that, I mean, of course, there's the missing 411 stuff and all that, but those seem to usually be, just random people that happen into unfortunate situations.
If you go into that subject, and we talk about PA, have you run across that going on in this state?
The missing people stuff.
Yeah.
I really dug in to it with the first book and looking at a specific area. And we were talking about this in the task force.
Right.
I filed some Freedom of Information Act requests, which were never filled. Never replied. I followed up on them. No one will get back to me. With the local police, there's a missing persons report from the 2000s right in the Toad Road area. It's a woman, I believe she was in her 60s. She just disappeared without a trace. Never found her. Nothing. There's some other. There was a fellow on. I heard him on another podcast. I forget his name, but he had done a lot of research into hunters that have gone missing, and he had a lot of cases in Pennsylvania, bow hunters specifically, I believe.
And if we can be serious for that just for a second, because we know I don't like to be serious unless we have to. The missing 411 books are quite voluminous, and he's writing more and more all the time, David Paulides. There's a lot to it, and I think it's a very complex situation. I don't think it can be easily dismissed one way or another. I think for people coming out and saying people just get, or just getting lost, I think is foolish. I think there is something to it. It's going to take a lot more than reading one book, though, for me to make that, what my conclusions on it would be. But to step back to that question, about engaging in this type of phenomena. I think the one situation and the one area of investigation people don't take seriously enough is home investigations and spiritual encounters. I don't think people really think that through enough. I think you have too many people wanting to go out there being ghost hunters and messing around with things they can't explain and can't possibly control. I think that's the most dangerous.
I agree with you 100%. I do agree with you with that. And you've heard my stories.
Yeah, I mean, and spiritual, I mean, people don't look at the spiritual aspect of their life as being as important as their physical being in terms of clear and present danger. But I assure people that are listening that that's quite the opposite. You know, you engage in this activity, be prepared to find some way to protect yourself. And if you don't feel that's important, then please do us all a favor and don't do it.
Absolutely. You know, I have been physically attacked numerous times doing sessions and investigations and such, and it does happen. It really does happen. And the fact that so many people want to get involved with paranormal investigations who just go at it haphazardly, then end up calling me or somebody else wanting to get an attachment taken off of them. It's very dangerous. If you don't know what you're dealing with, it's dangerous. And I've seen it happen way too many times. There are people that I know who still have attachments that we just have not been able to alleviate. It does happen. You know, I tell you, and you're right. I am more scared of certain malevolent entities than I am anything running around the woods.
Yeah, because let's be honest. It's the things you can't see that are sometimes far more harmful than what you can. And folks aren't seeing Bigfoot that much.
No, right. Yeah, you can find a house in every town that's haunted. I can guarantee you that, if not more than one.
Well, Tim can tell us all about that because he's getting into these stories, man. And if you read his book, Beyond the Seventh Gate, and again, as I talked about it when we first brought you on, Tim, I really appreciate the truth you bring to these local legends. And like, it's something that doesn't happen too often. People get a ghost story, they want to tell the ghost story. But for me, it's far more important when you get the real story. And maybe it's because I'm an investigator into these myself, but your book does a great service.
Oh, thanks. The one thing, I didn't tackle too many ghost stories in there. There's a few, and that's merely because there's probably 5 or 6 York County ghost books out there already. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel like at that time I could add anything new to it. That said, having done more research since then, I have a book that I'm hoping to get to at some point. The success of the Bigfoot book has made it necessary for me to go on and do the wild man stories in other areas. But I have another book I plan to do it's going to be more general paranormal stories from Pennsylvania, and I've found since then a lot of ghost stories that haven't been covered in these other local books.
Cindy wants to know, getting back to the Freedom of Information Act, what do you think about government's refusing to comply with requests?
The only thing I can say is, well, I don't know. With these small town police departments, maybe they just don't have the manpower to fill their requests. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, you told me about Pelham Township and what you've been running through with them.
Yeah, and maybe it's just a matter of manpower. It's to be into this stuff though, and to not get the request filled. It's really hard not to go to a kind of conspiracy area, like they're hiding something. They, for whatever reason, they don't want these reports out there. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say it's a small police force, and maybe they don't have the manpower to fill the requests.
Go ahead, Butch.
I've gotten return backs from FOIA requests, dozens, with excuses on them like I didn't spell something right, I didn't punctuate.
Yeah, I've heard people say that.
Don't any of you go ahead, Butch.
It's just nuts. I mean, with the Todd Cease case, the first FOIA request was pretty much a nothing request. It was just a request for the incident reports for the day before, day of, and day after the disappearance. And it came back that I had spelled his name wrong. I didn't have a comma in one place. They didn't know if it was a continuing sentence in another. So I redid it, thinking, okay, I'm just dumb. So I sent it back. Then I got it back and said I had sent it to the wrong people, and they sent it back again. 4 times that exact same FOIA request went to the exact same place. And I got 4 different excuses why I wasn't going to get it. And then when we were on the scene at that police department, waiting to talk to them in person, the lady at the desk said they'll be back in an hour. 3 hours later, we were still waiting in the parking lot, and went back in and said, where are they at? And she said, oh, they're done for the day. They went home. Now, you talk about being left out in the cold. Every FOIA request that was sent to them, district attorneys' offices, coroners, was just a joke. It was just a waste of time, effort, and paper.
Well, doesn't anybody else think that the FOIA requests are just like the ultimate trust fall waiting to fail? Hey, let me petition the government that's obviously hiding this information from me with the hopes they're going to send me something accidentally.
Yeah.
Well, then you can go the other direction, though, too, of what we've been experiencing out in Chicago. We send, after the police officer, sent us the report, sent Manuel the report about his partner and himself seeing the phantom in the Auburn Gresham neighborhood. We send various FOIA requests to the city, and we got them back within days. That never happens.
No.
It's almost like they were flagging these things when they came. They got them. Well, we sent it back. Nothing's ever reported, and that's what every one of them said. In fact, I heard of 4 different FOIAs being sent to the Chicago Police Department about that, and all of them came back within days saying the same thing. So I don't know. Ken in the chat room is saying, please tell Tim I'll call him to do that area investigate in northern Baltimore County. Have him call Ken A. He has my number. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. Hopefully I still have your number, Ken. If not, you have mine, I think. I've had a new phone since we last talked, I believe, but I'm very interested.
Very good. Well, that's my neck of the woods, too, because I live in Hanover, so he's southern York County as well. He lives in southern York County.
All this stuff I hear about York County,
it's crazy.
I think I'm going to bypass it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and you know what? I heard stories when I was a kid. The big story when I was a kid was the Rehmeyer thing. That's the big thing that went around when I was a kid. And it's still people talk about it, but, York County has had some of the craziest things as far as paranormal activity. And, I don't know why. But it is bizarre. And look, I lived in Hanover, was born and raised here in this town, left when I was 18, moved to Maryland, lived near Baltimore for 4 years, moved back to Pennsylvania, moved back to Hanover a year and a half ago. I have already been involved with 7 hauntings in this town alone.
Wow.
Yep. So, and I didn't expect that. I really didn't expect that, but,
Plenty of flowing water here, and we got that big vein of quartz that cuts right through, through Pennsylvania, but it comes right through York County. If quartz has anything to do with that,
Well, I believe it does. I think there's a big aspect of that. I think, with limestone and quartz, and of course a lot of limestone, I think they do kind of, add to the availability of paranormal activity. And of course, you said springs. I mean, there are springs everywhere around here.
Yeah, springs, creeks, streams. It's We've got our share.
Yeah, it's weird. So, let's see. Speaking of cryptids, now, we've got our old standbys. We got Bigfoot, we got Mothman, we got, Dogman, upright canines. You think there's a possibility that something new is going to pop up sometime in the near future? Because I believe there will be. That somebody has never seen before.
Yeah, I mean, I think it happens on a regular. Well, look at Slenderman.
Well, that's true.
That's something someone invented, and then people started seeing it.
Yeah. God knows the fall forms.
These rake creatures that people seem to be reporting more and more of, these kind of thin, gaunt. I guess they're humanoid, but they seem to walk on all fours. Very creepy things that people are reporting those a lot more. I don't remember those being reported, 10 years ago. I could be wrong.
No, you're right. I don't remember those sightings either.
And it seems like they're just popping up, here and there. So yeah, I'm sure something new is going to come up. I wonder if this what is it, the Lalakusa, the owl, the owl things are going to get seen more because they're usually they were seen in the Southwest, and then you brought up the one right around Chicago, right?
Actually, there were two of them.
Was there two? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the one guy, and this is a Hispanic neighborhood in Chicago, Humboldt Park area, and they actually said Lalakusa, but, we had other descriptions where they said they look like a giant owl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Of course, you got the Cornish owl sightings years ago that John Downs had documented, and that's well known as well. But as far as owl sightings, large owl sightings in the United States, that's mostly been, like you said, confined to the southwest part of the country and Rio Grande Valley and such. Maybe that will be something new. Maybe that is something that's going to start springing up throughout the country.
Yeah, it seems like, and again, I heard you guys talking earlier about the skinwalker kind of thing, and that was really confined to the Southwest. But there seems to be more and more talk of people, all around the country talking about these skinwalker accounts, which are very creepy.
Well, it seems that what we discovered, and Butch can, if you maybe verify this, that the tribes in the Pennsylvania area, and I'm talking about the Susquehanna, more the Shawnee and the Lenape or Delaware Indians, they had these shapeshifter, but which is that shapeshift into certain beings. They had that tradition as well.
Did they?
And the Cherokee had the same tradition, though, of course, most of the tribe was new to Oklahoma, but the skinwalker type beings was well known in the Cherokee tradition as well. So, everybody used to hear about the Navajo, Ute, and Hopis, and even Apache talk about skinwalkers, but really, a lot of these other tribes have had same and very similar traditions.
I have to get better informed on that because that's really interesting. I guess maybe people are talking about them more is what's going on. Like you said, with the internet and so forth, maybe just people are discussing it more.
Yeah, and that's something I did look into with this thing in Chicago. Now, I didn't really get into maybe some of the tribes that were in that specific area, but the Ojibwe, which was mostly southern Ontario, but they did come into some of the upper Midwest areas in the United States. They had a very huge tradition as far as witchcraft and shapeshifting. Now, I don't know if some of the other tribes that further south going into the Chicago area down in Indiana or Illinois had those traditions, but yeah, that's something I'm going to look at. And of course, we had the question earlier about the Native American or Native peoples and these winged beings. I haven't really been able to get much information other than, tribes maybe around that area. But no, I just haven't been able to get it.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to get folks to talk, especially First Nations people. I think they can sometimes be suspicious, and rightly so. Rightly so.
Well, I had, when I used to report J.C. Johnson's exploits out in the Four Corners area, he used to tell me about, even though he knew those people, it was hard. It was hard to get information, and especially when you're talking about skinwalkers. But, some of the younger people some of the tradition was handed down to them, they would talk. But the older people, the elders and such, they wanted nothing to do with talking about it.
And it's probably true of any insular society. I mean, people often ask me, "You're in Pennsylvania. What do the Amish say about this stuff?" The Amish aren't talking.
They ain't talking. Yeah.
It's not something they talk about. Very, very, very rarely you get something to pop up from the Amish. And I'm sure they're seeing it, but they're not talking.
Yeah. And with the indigenous, they, one of the things that goes way back in their beliefs is that if you discuss a skinwalker, he'll come pay you a visit.
Right.
There you go.
So,
why are we tempting fate then? What?
Not indigenous.
And you might have heard me talk about this Timothy, but I was the only story I've ever heard come out of the Amish community was a secondhand story, but it was about a Bigfoot that was seen in the Strasburg area. Farmer, well, actually what happened was a dairy farmer, he was Amish, famous Amish. The guy used to pick up the milk, right? This farmer talked to him about it. And basically what it was, this thing, they saw it in the fields, and it walked up into the property. It was, the description was just like any Bigfoot. But the problem was the thing had a pair of shorts on.
Huh.
Now, but it had the hair and everything and described just like the Bigfoot. It walked up toward the house. Everybody was in the house scared to death of this thing. It turned around and started walking toward the barn, and this old guy who he had talked to watched this thing, and as it was walking toward the barn, it disappeared.
Wow.
Yeah, so
those accounts you get of creatures wearing clothes are so creepy. Like, what a creepy thing, right?
Well, the first thing you think is, well, either werewolf, shapeshifter, or something else,
Mother-in-laws.
Sure. Mother-in-laws. But I don't know. I mean, that is so weird. I had a case in the Red Line area now I had a couple of small Bigfoot sightings in the Red Line area, but there was one I got. It was very, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe the witness itself because this person was a little out there. But they swore to God that this small Bigfoot had shirt and pants and everything on, and was walking around outside the Red Line. I don't know how, I don't know how to describe that, but I don't know what they saw, and they were very they didn't say a whole lot about it. I was even wondering why they got in contact with me. But this, I've gotten a lot of weird calls from that area, and that's your neck of the woods.
Oh yeah, I'm right in town there.
Yeah.
That calls to mind like a little person or like kind of a fae folk thing. A hairy person in clothes. That's very interesting. And the Amish sighting from my book is it's put down as a Bigfoot sighting often, but it really was a Goatman sighting. They talk about the creature had horns, like a ram.
Is that right?
Yeah, and that's the one sighting in Beyond the Seventh Gate that I have from Amish. I believe there might be. I forget if I have a second in there as well, but that was a series of sightings that happened over the course of 3 days, I think, on 3 different farms. But they all described it the same, as having horns like a ram.
And that was Lancaster County?
I thought it was when I put it in my book. That's why I put it in there. But I found lately, I got more information on it, and it's Happy Valley, which is more towards the center of the state.
Yeah.
A lot of the Amish moved there from Lancaster, I think that's why it gets reported as a Lancaster sighting. And it was originally reported, I think, maybe an old MUFON journal from the 70s or something. It was originally reported as as being from Lancaster, but it turns out it's from Happy Valley.
Oh, that Happy Valley, that's another place in itself. Of course, the Penn State Nittany Lions, and of course that's in Happy Valley. But people have said for years, well, those so-called Nittany Lions used to live up in that area. Those mountain lions live up there aren't around there anymore. Hey, I got news for you. There have been a lot of lion sightings in and out Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah, I've seen one.
I have seen one down in Maryland because I know they're around.
Yeah, mine was just in Upper Cove, Maryland. Which is just south of Pennsylvania. I saw it 2 days in a row.
Is that right?
In the same field. One day I saw it, I was by myself. The next, I told my brother about it. The next day, I was driving with him, and I was so glad I had another witness. There it was in the same field, same time of day. It was incredible. But and I know if they're in northern Baltimore County, they're in York County. In fact, I've had several people tell me, hunters and stuff, they've seen them in York County.
Yeah, mine was down in Carroll County, down in by Piney Run Reservoir, not far from there.
I know it. Yeah, I know it.
Yeah. It was going right across the White Rock Road, walked right in front of me. And it was definitely a mountain lion.
I had a fellow who talked to me and said that he had done a survey of these mountain lions, basically tracked them through Pennsylvania for years and years, had photographic evidence. He told me he even had a melanistic one, a black one that he had photographed. And he got all this information together and he presented it to Fish and Game, and they just summarily put it in the trash can. They wanted nothing to do with it.
Well, that's Pennsylvania. I mean, Pennsylvania Fish and Game is doesn't even want to talk about mountain lions.
Yeah, because then they have to do something.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, and that seems rude. They have to do something about the mountain lions, rather.
I'm sorry.
Well, that's but it's interesting, and Butch and I both find this very interesting. We've got how many DNR people interested in these upright canines, Butch? 3 of them?
3 now, yes.
So there you go. Now, they won't come out and say it, they won't come out in public and say it, but behind the scenes they'll say something to you about it.
Well, and the one gentleman is going. Well, we'll be heading out shortly on our 3 expeditions or 4 that we have scheduled, and the one guy is going to meet me. The one guy from DNR and DCR, and he said he'll take me right to the spot. He said this is where I saw it and this is what happened, and he's going to be retired in the next, I believe, week and a half, 2 weeks. So he's not. What happens? So we're going to document him real well. But
what part of the state was that?
What's that?
What part of the state was his sighting?
He is in Center County.
Okay.
He's right in that Center, Blair, Clearfield area.
Right.
That was his patrol area, Center County. And he said, I don't only see it once. He said, I've seen it twice.
Yeah. Wow.
And when he told me that he had seen something, I said, describe it to me. Describe what you saw. And I always tell it to anybody that makes that report. And they all describe exactly the same thing. So I don't have any clue what we're looking for. All I can go by is the description of what I'm looking for. Take precautions, and we'll be using 3 teams this year. Last year we went out with 2. This year we'll have 3. And so hopefully with all the new equipment, camera setups, FLIR devices, and stuff like that we got now, this year, new stuff, better stuff, bigger stuff, hopefully we can at least get this guy on FLIR, because nothing hides from a FLIR.
And you know, folks, Butch may not know what he's looking for, but I know what you should be listening for, and that's listening to us on WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York, and on iHeartRadio.
You know, and this is something else that Butch had been told, and you know, I knew it was happening. Were these coy wolves invading the state, and it had to be coming from Ontario, because that seemed to be where most of these coy wolves were hanging around. You know, that Toronto area, around Toronto, the Niagara area, and there, they are loaded with coy wolves up there. I mean, the city itself in Toronto, they have a problem with coy wolves. And that's been going on now for over a decade. So now all of a sudden in PA, we're getting these coy wolf sightings.
There was one killed. Let's see, how can I phrase this? The person that was north of Red Lion that was reporting Dogman. You know the person I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There, right around that area, there was a coy wolf or a very large coyote. It could have been either, but most likely a coy wolf killed alongside the road. So
Is that right?
Yeah, I wonder if that was possibly, a possible explanation for.
You think that might be what she was seeing?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've dealt with her too, so I don't know.
I thought it was all wrapped up, and I thought, like, okay, this is, she's a little. My impression was she probably saw something originally, and then got scared, and then every shadow was something, right?
Right.
And I thought, well, she's making mountains out of molehills, and I kind of wrapped up, figured that's that, and then not a week later, there was an episode of Sasquatch Chronicles where they talked to somebody who photographed red eye shine outside their window from York, which was, I mapped it out. They were maybe a mile, maybe 2 miles from her. So that just put another big question mark on
Maybe
it.
She was telling the truth.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. Like, now I don't know.
Well, I didn't know from coy wolves from German shepherds. And when we went on the first expedition up in the Clearfield area, talking to the park ranger there, and just asked him if anything strange or anything weird happened, and he said no. He said these started showing up, and he whipped out his phone, and I'm looking at him going, that's a wolf. And he said, well, actually it's a coy wolf. And he showed a picture of a pack of 8 and another pack of 10. And being that there's a Boy Scout camp nearby, when they see them, they shoot them.
Oh.
And coy wolves, didn't take much research to figure out that they're just as dangerous as a pack of wolves. You may confront one in front of you or 2, but there might be 8 or 10 behind you. And they got that wolf mentality. And right now, Pennsylvania Game Commission states, shouldn't say says, they state, that way they can take it back, that there's approximately 100 to 150,000 coy wolves in the state.
Holy moly!
That was our last projection.
That's a lot.
Damn right.
Well, they've been here for a lot of years, and they mate like dogs. They don't have 1 or 2 pups; they'll have a litter of 5, 6, 8. So wouldn't take long to get to that number. But when I asked him, what do they do when he does take them down? They just they have a pit they throw them in. And I said to him, well, next time you get one, could you kind of save his carcass for me? And he said, sure, no problem. So we'll be heading up there. I hope I get my carcass.
Just got a question in the chat room asking if there are any dog men in Ontario. Well, there are upright canines. I have reported on several up in the Niagara area, where the radio station is located. But no, over across into the Ontario. But yeah, I had 3 very good sightings in and around St. Catharines and maybe a little further west from there.
Have you taken any of the dogman sightings were from towns? Like I've heard some accounts on
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, in populated areas in Niagara, yeah, in Ontario, Niagara area, absolutely. They were all in populated areas, and these were big boys too. I mean, they were 7, 8 foot tall, standing up side of the road, yellow eyes, the whole 9 yards. So yeah, there are sightings up there, no doubt about that. So answer your question, yeah. I don't necessarily say they're dogman, because dogman, there's kind of this mixture of dogman, upright canine. Dogman basically is a quadruped. It's got a strange look to it. It's got like a sloping back. Kind of reminds a bit of a hyena body, but the head looks like a wolf. And there are some human aspects to it, like the legs in the front kind of look human-like, though they are hocked in a way, but they're different looking. Why that is, what kind of mutation that is, I don't know. But what we're talking about in Pennsylvania and what people saw up in the Niagara area of Ontario are upright canines. And these are big, and when people talk about them, when they send you examples of what they look like, just think about the movie Underworld and the lichens in Underworld. That's what we're talking about. So there you go.
Thanks.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to walk up on one of those things.
Yeah, exactly. Not something you want to.
No. And they aren't aggressive. I imagine they would become aggressive if you got in their territory, or that they thought you were going to do something, but they do stand their ground. And we have had people with guns who didn't even think about taking a shot at it, just backed away from it.
Probably a good idea.
And we've talked about that in the past. There's been plenty of reports of people running into an unknown creature they can't explain with a weapon, and they just can't draw the weapon. They can't seem to bring themselves to take that shot.
Mm.
That happened in one of your cases.
Mm-hmm.
Sean?
It did. We had a weapon with us, and we couldn't use it. It's just weird. It's just your mind's. I don't think the mind is cognitively thinking about what's going on other than the initial shock of what you're experiencing.
Well, that could be also applied to what's going on in Chicago with taking photographs.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Lon, I really think that isn't just applicable to weapons. I think that does fall into the same category with electronic devices. I just think there's something that the brain just kind of, either through our own design or by some sort of exterior influence, just something that prevents you from making that action.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why, when we started going out looking for these guys, one of the things that all the investigators involved agreed on was that we needed cameras that were automatic, that weren't going to depend on us to do anything.
Yeah.
Because, if I see something 8-10 foot looking like, something from Underworld walking through the woods at me, the last thing I'm going to think about is pushing the trigger on a Nikon.
Oh, hold on, Mr. Dogman. Let me take a picture.
Yeah. Could you lean to the left a little bit so I don't get that light? I need that shadow on your face a little bit. No, that's not going to happen.
But I think there are people out there that have that expectation of us.
Yes.
To get that picture.
Yeah. They and it's. I mean, when I saw the whatever I saw on Toad Road, the last thing I thought about was taking a picture. I just wanted to observe it. I didn't want to, fuss with my phone and try to get my phone. I wanted to see this thing for as long as I could, which wasn't very long. It was, I don't know, seconds. But, I wanted to take it in. I didn't want to, mess around and think about a phone or anything. It didn't even occur to me.
Yeah.
Another thing is kind of strange, Tim. A couple of the witnesses with these bipedal reports, we had one lady watch it for over 10 minutes, staring into a pond. We had a guy up in Tuscarora watching these things for like 15, 20 minutes, chasing down deer. And it's just strange that the one guy encounters one walking up a swamp. He's going bird hunting, and he's walking up a swamp with a weapon. And he sees this in some bushes, and it's staring at him, and he's staring at it for a good 5 minutes. No aggression, but the only thing in his mind was that if he did anything stupid, either with the weapon or otherwise, he was going to die. And that just stuck to that. And we've heard that from every witness, even the guy that came within a matter of yards with a high-powered rifle of one, in his scope. The only thing in his mind was, don't shoot. So there's so much to this that's so weird and you can't put it all together because, who am I to judge somebody's psyche at a time like that? I'll let you know if it happens to me, though. But it's one of these things where it's just too uncanny that all these reports we have, the descriptions, with the exception of one, are exact. We have multiple people approaching these things that have weapons, that see them for more than a few seconds and more than a few minutes. And there always seems to be a time lapse. Like, we'll have a report, and then for a couple months we don't get anything, and then all of a sudden we'll get another one. And the last one with the Game Commission guy and his buddy walking up a new walking trail, when they hear something walking in the woods aside of him, and he was armed. He had a .40 Glock. And, his first thought was it's either deer or a bear that's just following them, and walking parallel to them. So they get to the end of this newly constructed walking trail, and they turn around. Now they hear it on the right side again, heading back, and he just stops. And he said, I don't know what made me stop and turn around and look, but when he stopped and turned around and looked, there it stood in the middle of the road, or the middle of the trail. And he got a good long look at it for a few minutes. And then he said to his buddy, let's get back and to the truck. And as they headed back to the truck, which was in a small parking area at the base of this newly formed walking trail, there it stood in the tree line, watching them. And he said he never heard it move. And he said it's a good quarter to half mile walk.
Wow. Could it have been two separate creatures?
No, he said it was exactly the same thing he saw on the trail. His description was dead center, right on the money of everything that we already have, every description.
Yeah.
The fellow that saw him hunting deer, was it more than one that was hunting the deer?
There were two.
There were two of them.
Now, these were originally seen on all four, and one came out of the bushes, and then the other one followed, and he actually was zeroed in on the deer. And he was going to pop the deer when this came into view, and he looked and he saw the second one, and the first one, the deer ran off, and then the second one went after the deer, and he was downwind, and this thing kind of walked away a little bit from the deer and then stopped and looked right at him and then walked up to him. And it was below his tree stand. He said it was 50 yards away. His description, except for this thing being on all fours, was more in like Lon described it as hyena looking. Hunchback, low back end, head, very large head, wolf-like, but it had long ears and it had a tail. Now, we haven't had any reports of anybody seeing a tail on any of the reports that we have. So,
yeah, but it seems a dogman. Does seem that most of the dogman sightings, the quadrupeds, do have tails. But yeah, you're right. The upright canines, you get very few of them talk about a tail.
Yeah, and the coloring. He said it was kind of matted, multicolored, like browns and lighter browns and maybe some red, where the bipedal reports that we get, they're really dark brown or black fur.
Mm-hmm.
Very short, not long at all, where the description of in Tuscarora was the hair was long and shaggy. So, again, I kind of put it in two different categories, as it wasn't a bipedal canine, but it was an unknown four-legged canine. And then the thing watched him for quite a while, was growling at him as he was looking down at it. And he stayed in the tree stand. Then eventually it walked off. And he stayed in the tree stand for quite a while before he climbed down and ran to his car. And he went right to the game commission and told them what he saw. And they told him, well, they had a lot of reports of large dogs in the area. And he said, buddy, this ain't no dog. He said, I don't care what you're going to say. He said, but it ain't no dog. So, no dog. So now we got something else which could very well run into that realm of dogman.
I told Stan Gordon about that, and he told me, oh, yeah. He said, I had 2 sightings eastern part of the state. Well, the one was York County.
Yeah, he told me that was a hyena type.
Yeah. And the other one was, I don't know. He didn't really tell me. I don't know if it was a bogus report, but he said, yeah, I gotten 2 sightings. Something very similar to that. So I don't know. And this guy went into the Tuscarora forest, which was right there, and he talked to one of the to the ranger there, and he acted like he didn't know what he was talking about. So of course they're not gonna tell you anything, but I don't know. That was a weird one. I mean, the guy stood up, he was ready to leave, but he stood up in the stand for about an hour before he got down and went back to his car. But I can guarantee you he was watching around.
Head on a swivel. Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah, that's scary. I was thinking today, watching this stuff about the hurricane and all. Now, I'm just wondering, now, the area around, well, with Houston and the areas north there up along the coast, there have been a lot of Bigfoot sightings up that way. And I'm just wondering if this thing is going to affect the Bigfoot population anyway. Then with this Irma coming into wherever in Florida,
yeah, coming up the south.
What's it going to do with the skunk ape and everything else people have been seeing in there?
Not to mention the fires in out west.
Absolutely.
Oregon. Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, Dave Scott asked us about the fires up in British Columbia, and they wanted to know what we thought about the Bigfoot population moving out of there. They must have had some really bad fires up there because... well,
he was evacuated 3 times.
Yeah. Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know how natural disasters affect these creatures. Like I said, the only natural disaster that I ever heard about affecting a population of Bigfoot was Mount St. Helens. But that thing hit so quick, they didn't have a chance. And of course, there were people that swore that they saw the government taking these things out in helicopters, these dead bodies of Bigfoot.
Yeah, there's some strange stories that came out of that.
Yeah.
I don't know how many have been kind of accepted as true or if they're just considered folklore, but there's some very strange stories around Mount St. Helens. People talking about them giving medical aid to Bigfoot creatures.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's true. I've heard that story too. And how can you prove that?
Right.
These witnesses swear up and down it happened, but
there's that very descriptive story from Tom Powell's book, The Locals, the Battle Mountain Fire, where they talk about extracting a Bigfoot and getting it medical attention. That's a pretty interesting story for anybody who is interested in that. You want to check out The Locals by Tom Powell. It's first of all, the whole book is fantastic, but that story is pretty impactful. And you know, a lot of animals have that ability to sense these coming storms and that precognitive ability to sense danger. I wouldn't be surprised if these Bigfoot creatures had already kind of picked up the sense and kind of moved on out well before the storm hit.
Unless they've got some way of batting the hatches and stay still and keep safe.
We talked about this years ago with Bobby Short, God rest her soul, while she was still alive, and over the years with Henry May and others about this very topic. And, of course, there's no way to really verify any of what we say or what we assume, but it's interesting to talk about nonetheless.
Obviously, they're getting in their UFOs and flying away.
That must be it. They summon them down and they get picked up and go away.
Well, this was 1973 in southwestern Pennsylvania. That would be very fitting.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big flap in 73, so yeah, absolutely.
Westmoreland County. And, of course, we'll be getting into that as we progress down the line here on Arcane Radio.
That I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with that, but it just seems that you just don't ever hear of any of these Bigfoot populations or any of that being affected by natural disasters other than something that's sudden, like an eruption. But I don't know. It's interesting. So Timothy.
Yes.
What's going on with you in the near future? You have any? Do you have a book ready to come out in the near future, or how can people get to contact you, or whatever?
It's going to be a while on the next book. I have about 5 irons in the 5 books I want to write. And,
I'm telling you, I know how that is.
And I just, I'm bouncing from one to the other, and luckily a lot of the research overlaps, so it's. But we'll see when the next one is. There's one I want to illustrate that I didn't write that I might be able to knock out before the others. But we'll see. I definitely want to stay on that train though. I'm going to be at the it's called the Haunted Haldeman Mansion. It's in Lancaster County. They're having a paranormal expo on September 16th. I'll be there with copies of my book and some of my artwork and so forth. People want to stop by and say hello. That's an all-day thing. It's a Saturday. I think it goes from 10 in the morning till 8 at night. And then I think they have if you want to do an evening kind of ghost hunt thing, that they host that. I think after the expo is over. So
excellent.
Yeah, that's where I'll be next, and everybody can find me at strangefamiliars.com. That's probably the easiest place. Links there to everything else.
Well, I appreciate you coming on again with us and being on our premiere show. And you're part of the Chicago Phantom Task Force, and we will be talking soon, probably tomorrow. And you have a good evening, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks again.
Okay, thanks for having me. It was an honor to be here. Anytime you guys want me back, just let me know.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim. Folks, Timothy Renner, our guest tonight. Check him out over at Strange Familiars. All around good guy, great author. We love having him on the program. Some housekeeping notes. Next week, we have the Singular Fortean team. They're going to be joining us, Tobias Wayland and Emily Bardos. That's going to be a good show. They've been with us on this Chicago Phantom Task Force journey. Seems to be a theme going on here. I'll be broadcasting from Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Well, actually, Gallipolis, Ohio, right across the bridge. As I get ready to partake in the Mothman Festival, I'll be there chatting with people, trying to maybe get us some interviews and having some great conversation all around with the folks at that particular event. Always good stuff. And, of course, here at WCJV, there's some great programming going on, guys. Friday night, September 8th, the live premiere of Hot Rod Paranormal with John Ahila, who are going to have Linda Williamson on the program. And that following Monday, our good friend Colin Schneider, the Crypto Kid, is going to be talking to Benjamin Radford. Tuesday the 12th, Dr. Brian Parsons, Paranormal News Insider, is going to be bringing us the latest in paranormal news. And that following Tuesday at 9 p.m., we're going to be talking surviving evidence of Chris I can never say his last name right. Give it to me, Lon.
DeCesare.
DeCesare. I was going to say it right. And Phil Casey. They're going to have Jack Kenna on. And then Wednesday, Kate Hobson, Paranormal Experience. Chad Morin's going to be that guest. All here on WCJV, Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York, and on iHeartRadio. Great programming coming to you. And all you folks have to do is just tune in and listen. And on the 21st, we're going to have Rosemary Ellen Guiley and the Mothman Festival recap. That's your 2 weeks. You go to arcaneradio.com/upcoming to see our schedule of our upcoming guests. Lon, anything you want to add there?
Not a whole lot, and I wish I was going to Mothman, especially with what's going on in Chicago, but I believe that Rosemary is going to be doing a presentation there about the phenomena, and I know David Weatherly is going to be talking about it as well. And, of course, you're going to be down there, so you'll have our back.
Yeah, I'm going to try to record some of these great lectures they're going to be doing. I didn't get a table this year. Email screwed things up, of course, but that's going to give me a chance to be more mobile. I'll be with Erie, Eric Fargiorgio, and the lovely Carrie Fargiorgio. I'll be at their table selling their artwork there of the Bigfoot, Bob Ross of Bigfoot, Eric Fargiorgio. Cat got my tongue there. And, of course, hanging out with my good friends at Small Town Monsters, Seth Breedlove and crew, who will be there debuting their movie, The Mothman of Point – well, not debuting, but showing their movie, The Mothman of Point Pleasant, down there at the State Theater. It's fantastic. And, folks, if you haven't, check out Small Town Monsters, smalltownmonsters.com. They've got some great documentaries about ready to hit. You can pre-order Invasion on Chestnut Ridge. I kickstarted the movie because I believe in what Seth and the team do, keeping the spirit alive for these small town monsters and these local legends. And, how about some congratulations to our good friend Seth Breedlove, the International Cryptozoology Museum's 2017 Cryptozoologist of the Year. How about that?
Well deserved. Well deserved.
Yeah, Seth's an incredible guy, a good friend of mine. And I'm glad he's doing so well, and I'm very proud of him and his team and the movies they're making. Check them out, guys. Seriously, smalltownmonsters.com. Buy yourself some. You won't regret it. Some of the best documentaries on these creatures you'll probably see, hands down.
So, you got anything, Butch? Anything to say?
Nope. Just getting ready to get out in the woods, so...
Yeah,
the only thing I'll probably record is me screaming. So.
Well, don't forget to get that death gurgle if you are. Right? That's going to sell.
I'll make sure that's all on tape.
The money shot, yeah.
Good, because remember, it doesn't happen if it's not on tape. And
boy,
burn that one out.
Yeah, really. Well, folks, thanks for joining us for our premier show here on WCJV, and we're going to try to make the best of this and try to make it and try to improve it each week. I believe we have a lot to offer everyone, and we'll just go from there and see how we do.
Well, I'm having a blast. I got a little bit more pep in my step now, thanks to our good friends here at WCJV, Dita and Cindy. I'm eternally grateful for their assistance. It's nice to be produced instead of producing while hosting. It's a completely different experience for those of us who know the pain of doing both. I'm very appreciative. I've always felt I was a better talent than a better producer. So this has just been fun for me. If you can tell, I've been kicking back tonight. And hopefully next week you'll get a little bit more of the same. Great show tonight. Again, thank you, Timothy Renner, for joining us. On behalf of Butch and Lon, and, of course, I'm Sean, the Fort Chop Forker, and all our friends here at WCJV, Digital Broadcasting Network out of Youngstown, New York, and on iHeartRadio. Keep watching the skies. Good night, everybody.